Hello, welcome to Delusional Chaos, the podcast which isn't just any podcast, but a podcast which explores the messy, real, and magical layers of life. So, today is the second episode to Delusional Chaos, and I'm just excited to make this a weekly project, and I just want to bring you guys along on the journey. So, today's topic is romance in chaos. If you like this video, then make sure you give it a like. You can comment what your opinions are on this video, and you can also subscribe for more content just like this. So, let's just get into it. Okay, so my first topic for today's podcast is my dating app era. And I have made a video about it, but I just wanted to go into the chaos behind dating apps and just the chaos that comes with dating people from these dating apps. And yeah, let me just dive into that. So, as a girl who was kind of out of the game for a little bit, I decided with my friend as a joke to download a dating app, and I was like, hee hee haha, like it's all cute and fun, and I just wanted to see kind of what I was missing out on. And since I was 14, like I had multiple relationships which were long term and kind of one after the other. So when I decided I'm taking a break for a while, I then decided to go back into dating with online dating, which was a bad decision. And I didn't really love the idea of dating apps or online dating, just from the horror stories and like all the documentaries, like the Tinder swindler. That was a crazy story, and I just didn't really want that for myself, because knowing me and knowing my luck, that would happen. So I created a Tinder profile first, which was just such a weird experience because like I have to try and sell myself, and it's just like I don't know what to say about me. So I just tried to put something like, cutesy, and it was just very obvious to me very quickly what type of men I was attracting on there and what they kind of wanted from the conversations that I was having with them. Like I just did not, get the vibe that they wanted something serious. And I decided after, struggling a bit on Tinder, that I would download Hinge because I thought it was better, and it definitely wasn't. It was slightly better, they were more respectful on there, but then it just was not cute on there either, and I didn't really have much luck. And after a lot of failed situationships, which I kind of talked about in my dating app video, which you will have to go and check out because it's a wild one. It's one of like the first videos that I kind of did, and I'm very proud of it. And I go into a little bit more detail about situationships in that one. But I just, after I had a lot of situationships, I decided like I need to not date anyone and just be alone, because I am not attracting the right type of person right now. And I just thought, ugh, because there is just a lot of like sexual talk and a lot of just things which aren't exactly what I'm looking for when it comes to finding a partner. And I just thought, yeah, I'm not gonna find somebody online, and I kind of like the idea of meeting somebody in person a lot more anyway. What I say that I definitely learned from it is that there are some scary people out there, and a lot of scary men, but obviously there's a lot of nice men too. It's just online dating isn't for me, and it's ruining romance. I mean, some people have had some very good stories out of it, but I just knew I wasn't gonna find like the right person. But it taught me what I do and don't want from a relationship. So I guess that is a positive. And the next topic that I want to talk about is about my toxic ex relationship. And I want to share this one because I know a lot of people will relate, and it's a story that I've been waiting to tell for a couple of years, and I think a lot of people can relate to this and kind of want to know the story of how I got through it. And yeah, I just want to share that because it is a great example of romance in chaos. So I dated this boy, which I'm gonna nickname Jay, and that's just because I don't really wanna give him, too much exposure or like, do you know what I mean? But I just wanted to talk about this experience because it taught me a lot and it shaped me into who I am today. So let me just get into it. I started dating him around the age of 17, and I dated him until I was around the age of 20 years old. And when I met him, it was kind of like an instant connection, but things were a little bit complicated because we were both seeing other people, but we just knew that like our connection was really strong, and we instantly like kind of just fell for each other, and that did cause a little bit of problems around us, but we were just so obsessed with each other. Once we had started dating, everything seemed perfect. We were just totally obsessed with each other. Like, we were just constantly meeting up, calling, all of the rest. And in the beginning, it was just very sweet, and he was just very affectionate and caring, and he matched the energy that I wanted and needed. And yeah, it was just during the pandemic as well in 2020. So we became very dependent on each other, and I moved into his mum's house, I think, like a month after we had officially started dating, just because I was having my room redone at my house and I didn't really have anywhere else to go. So he was like nice enough to let me stay. And yeah, we became very dependent on each other. And I did enjoy living with him, so I did decide to stay after my room was redone. Everything did seem pretty perfect, other than there was like a few red flags. But I thought that they were just kind of normal, so I ignored them. But once we had started arguing is when our relationship started to crumble, and our communication was just like all over the place, and we got very toxic very quickly after that. And when we would argue, he would just constantly dismiss my feelings by ignoring me or just flipping it back on me. And in the end, I would just end up either apologizing or comforting him. And it just, yeah, was not really fun or cute or anything like that. After that, it became pretty apparent to me that anytime that I was upset or angry or had any kind of emotion, I always ended up like looking after him over myself, and that's obviously not a great way to be. But I learned how to adapt to kind of keep him in my life, because obviously I was very dependent on him and I thought that he was my everything when he obviously wasn't. But I thought that I would never find anyone who would care as much as he cared about me. Do you know what I mean? But then I ended up isolating myself from everyone just because I was like having a very bad time and I didn't really have like the best people around me. So he was kind of the only person I had left and like felt like I could rely on, which is obviously not great, because then when we're arguing and stuff, I don't have anyone to talk to about it, and he was like the kind of only opinion I had around me, so I just kind of went with it for a while. And then I also felt like he understood pain and he understood love kind of the way that I did. So it just didn't really make sense for me to leave him, because I was like, I'm just never going to find somebody that matches my energy like this. And it's the reason why I stayed for so long. And it got to a point where it was kind of like 2 years in, and it felt like we were just in this cycle which was just never ending. And it felt like we also couldn't leave each other, which just is the definition of like a toxic relationship. And it wasn't until one day when all my fears came true, when I was at home and it was just before bed, and I kind of had like this gut feeling that something had happened and that I couldn't trust him. And I looked through his Discord account, which I know sounds crazy, but from the amount of little things which he did to make me distrust him throughout the relationship, there was just so many red flags, like looking at half naked girls online and just all really like horrible and just disrespectful things. I just felt like I needed to do that, and I just had a feeling to look through his Discord, and I was just on his account, and then I did a little scroll, and then this one name stood out to me, which was Fluffy Socks. And my heart honestly just, shattered when I read those messages, because they were honestly disgusting. And I did what any girl would do and tortured myself by reading the messages front to back. And they were concerning, because I was just like, how is he like cheating on me? Because to give the context, he was talking to this girl in America, and I don't know much about her really. I still don't know much to this day, but they had met whilst gaming together and then started chatting on Discord, and they were just kind of flirting, sexting, just all the rest of it. And it had been going on for like over half our relationship, which was just another crazy thing. It was kind of like on and off between them, but it was just crazy to me, the way that he spoke to her and the way that he just operated that whole situation, when he would constantly like accuse me of wanting other guys' attention and all the rest of it, when it was just probably him reflecting his own feelings onto me, because he was doing that to me. But once I had read all of the messages, I obviously was very upset and, just was really, really heartbroken. And I had called him so many times, to the point where I just sent him those messages, and I can't really remember what I said in them, because I just haven't really wanted to think about, you know, that night, because it was not nice to go through and it was not nice to read. But I basically gave off the impression that I knew something, and then he blocked me the next morning, and the next day was very hard, because I had just completely like shattered everything I knew about this man. I just thought the person that I had loved is not the person that I was reading in those messages, and I just couldn't believe that, like, the way that he was with me on a day-to-day basis. Like, I spoke to him all day, every day, and he was still doing these things, like, whilst I was asleep, or like lying in the bed behind him. Like, he was just like on call to this girl all night, and it was just like so crazy to me that he could actually do this to me, when I thought that he understood my pain and my views and, you know, all the rest of it. And then the day after it all happened, I was obviously really low, just needed somebody to be with me. My best friend Abby came over, which was so cute of her, because she just looked after me and made sure I knew I had somebody who I could trust to talk to about this. And then after that, we kind of just sat down and read all the messages, and we were both just so disgusted and shocked, because we knew that he probably wasn't the best person from all the arguments and, you know, all of that, but we genuinely didn't believe that he didn't care about me enough to not do that to me, sort of thing. And it was a couple months later, after he had blocked me, that he decided he would come back to me. And that was following a letter that he had gotten to his house, about me going to the hospital for like an eye appointment. And he just said that he wanted to check I was okay, which I just thought was absolutely crazy, because how can you say that you care about me and that you miss me when you ruined our whole relationship based on a fantasy of this other girl in America, when you had the perfect, well, in my eyes, like the perfect girlfriend. And I just, well, not, I wouldn't, I'm not saying I was perfect. Like, obviously, when you're in a toxic relationship, you really do become the person that you're with. But I was a really good girlfriend to him, and I really did try and like work on things unlike him. And I feel like I tried my best in the relationship, like despite all the circumstances. And after he had messaged me, I did still kind of like have a soft spot to him, so I decided, okay, like, I'm gonna hear him out, and I just want to talk about this, and maybe this will help me move on from him as well. And so we just talked about everything, and we poured our hearts out, and I just obviously really missed him, and I was just kind of happy to be talking to him again and having him in my life. And I also at the time felt like my life was empty without him, even though I kind of realised now that he was the reason why my life felt empty, which is like obviously a hard hitting thought. But things were pretty good between us again, until obviously the inevitable. We were arguing again, and he just started distancing himself, and his whole energy just shifted. He basically started treating me as what I can only describe as how you would treat your mortal enemy. Like, he acted as if he hated me, and he would just constantly be rude, and he just did not care what I had to say. Like, all he wanted to tell me was basically his problems, and he basically just was a idiot at the end, and just not very nice to me. And I just suddenly one day realized like I was done with it. I just did not want to deal with it anymore, and I decided that I was going to call him and tell him that it was probably for the best if we stopped talking. And I didn't really know what his reaction was. I was kind of hoping that he would be like, no, like, I love you, like, let's fix this, like, I'm sorry I've hurt you and all the rest. But when I called him and I said to him, look, like, we need to stop talking, because it's really affecting me, and he was like, okay. And then he hung up the phone and he blocked me. So that was the end of that. And although it was really painful, I felt like I needed to do it to honour my self-respect. And around a week later, after that call, he posted his new girlfriend, which was so cute and fun and fresh, and just, it was just, oh, I loved it. I loved the fact that I really wanted him to make it work with me, and I felt like maybe he was just, going through too much, and that's why he couldn't make things work with me. But then he came up with a whole new relationship a week later, and that's kind of the end of that story, because there is a little bit more to the story, but I just don't think it's kind of relevant, because it's a little bit of drama that just kind of followed after, and I just don't think it's part of like the bigger message that I'm trying to portray in like today's episode. But I did want to just go through quickly the lessons that it taught me going through all of that, and I'm sure one day I could go into more of like the nitty gritty details of how toxic the relationship was, but I'm trying to not kind of focus as much on the negative parts and more about the lessons that it taught me, because that's the whole point of this podcast, is just talking about the messy layers but beautiful, messy, chaotic layers of life. But no, so the lessons that it taught me is that it taught me who actually cared for me and had my best interest at heart. So what I mean by this is I had a lot of support from people at work and people in my family, and obviously my best friend, and just old friends that I've reconnected with. And it really taught me about who actually had my best interests, and it made me recenter my focus on myself and the people that actually mattered the most to me. And another lesson that I learned is that it taught me who I was as an individual and who I want to be, and kind of how to love every part of myself and every version of myself, because it obviously shattered me as a person, and I think it completely like broke me down until I didn't realize like who I was anymore. So I think I definitely needed something. I I didn't I didn't need it, but it definitely taught me who I actually was again, and just made me again refocus me as my center of my universe. And another lesson that it taught me is the signs to look out for and what type of relationship I want and the partner that I want. because obviously I do not want to go through anything like that ever again. I genuinely would not wish it on anyone because it was just so horrible, so toxic, and just not cute. But yeah, it definitely has taught me that I want healthy love, not toxic love. And yeah, it also taught me that in love there can be chaos, but the chaos can teach you a lot and it can help you grow. And I think that all of the horrible breakups and all of the chaotic moments in love have taught me a lot more than being happy in love, because they have really showed me the darkest and deepest parts of people and what they're capable of. And you know, it also taught me about like the light in love at the same time, because obviously there are good people out there and people with good intentions, but you just really have to search for that and only settle for that. And that's kind of what I learned from that massive horrible relationship, to be honest. But although I wish I never went through it, I do know that I would not be half the person that I am today, and I probably would not be doing this video right now. And because I am trying to make this more of like a regular thing, I want to end it on a closing question. And my closing question is, what does romance in chaos mean to you? And you can leave your answer in the comment section below. But that is the end to the second episode of Delusional Chaos, and I'd love to know your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. And remember, you can like and subscribe and check out my channel for other content just like this. But until then, stay delusional, embrace the chaos, and I'll see you again in the next episode. Bye.